President Trump on the racetrack in D.C. today after rallying crowds in South Carolina on Friday for interim Senator Darlene Graham, the sister of the late Senator Lindsey Graham.
Elect Senator Darlene Graham to fight for South Carolina and to always put America first. She only knows how to put America first.
This happening ahead of a runoff election on Tuesday where she hopes to win the chance to run for her brother's seat in November.
Get out and vote on Tuesday. We got to get people to the polls. I promise to work so hard for the state of South Carolina and carry on some of the great things that Lindsey was doing.
But her opponent, Congressman Ralph Norman, taking a swing, calling Graham the establishment candidate and adding that even without Trump's support, he is the conservative leader South Carolina voters want. We'll find out in just 48 hours. We're also watching key primary elections in Oklahoma and Georgia. And a trade war heating up right now in Canada. They're retaliating against President Trump's 50% tariff on Canadian goods.
America has changed. We were not prepared to compromise Canada's sovereignty or to undermine our key industries.
This at a time when Americans are pinching pennies. The administration now making plans to lower costs for key household staples like ground beef. Will it be enough to help everyday Americans and still protect the farmers our nation relies on? And overseas, Iran hitting back at the threats from the White House just a day before the U.S. is set to announce historic new tariffs. Mr. Trump says it will be economic warfare and isolation on an unprecedented scale. A former State Department official and foreign policy advisor for the Obama campaign joins us live to break down the latest. Thank you so much for joining us for News Nation Live. I'm Nick Smith. The trade war between the United States and Canada escalating with President Trump hitting back as 50% tariffs on Canadian goods are now in effect. Both sides are pointing fingers at each other for the breakdown in talks. Canada is getting ready to reveal its own retaliatory tariffs against the United States in the coming days. News Nation's Hannah Brandt is live at the White House with the latest. Hannah, good afternoon.
Hey, Nick. Good afternoon. The tensions at this point with Canada seem to only be getting worse in this escalating trade war. President Trump is now digging in, putting up a Truth Social post overnight where he says Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one, writing they have also charged our great farmers for many years massive amounts of tariffs. No more. Now, this is a total 180 from earlier in the week when talks seemed headed towards somewhat of a deal, so much so that President Trump put a 3-day pause on the planned start of new U.S. tariffs on Canada. The president saying he did that so the deal could be finalized, but by Friday night, the country said negotiations had collapsed. U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says that's on Canada because he says the U.S. offered the country significant tariff reductions on steel, aluminum, autos, and lumber. But Greer says things really fell apart when Canada made new demands and walked back their commitments. Canada, though, they see it differently. Their Prime Minister Mark Carney says it's the U.S. that demanded too much and offered too little in these talks. He says U.S. negotiators made some last-minute changes that would have hurt Canadian industries and restricted the country's ability to make trade deals with other countries. So now here's where things stand. The U.S. is imposing that new 50% tariff on 5% of Canadian goods, things that range from alcohol to hockey sticks to tongue depressors to dairy. And Canada says it's going to be countering with retaliatory tariffs of its own that will start September 8th. Those, they say, will be targeted at U.S. steel, dairy, and appliances. They have not released the full details yet. They're still working on those. But amid the back and forth, leaders are definitely pointing fingers over who's to blame for all of this.
Canada will match Washington's new tariffs dollar for dollar in order to protect Canadian workers, farmers, families, and businesses.
We've said enough, and so we've taken countermeasures. Our interest is in protecting American workers and protecting American supply chains.
And remember, Canada is one of our country's top trading partners. Just last year, the U.S. and Canada traded over $880 billion in goods and services, Nick.
Hannah, I do have a question for you. As we go back and forth over who's to blame for these tariffs, can you tell us about the potential political impact of the new tariffs?
Well, here in the U.S., we're, of course, looking at midterms just months away, and this trade war could have an impact on some of the tightest Senate races. I'm thinking of states like Maine, Michigan, Ohio, and Alaska. Those are states that could feel the impacts, and they're all home to some of the most competitive Senate races in the elections ahead. Michigan, in particular, they conduct the most bilateral trade with Canada out of any state. And then take Maine, which is the most trade-dependent state with Canada. The Republican Senate candidate there, Susan Collins, she's certainly concerned about all of this. She's running for re-election. She posted about these tariffs, saying they'll increase costs for Maine families, and she urged U.S. leaders to return to the negotiating table. Now, Collins does have somewhat of a reason to be concerned. She's currently trailing her Democratic opponent, Troy Jackson, in polling by 2 points. And this is seen for Democrats as a must-pick-up seat in order to win back the Senate majority, Nick.
And many will be watching closely. Hannah Brandt, live at the White House. Hannah, thank you. Iran's president now defending the memorandum of understanding with the United States as the best possible way to achieve peace. Meantime, Iran's security chief is threatening earthquake-like retaliation if the United States takes any action. Tomorrow, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is expected to announce new measures against Iran, vowing to impose an unprecedented level of economic warfare and isolation. All of this is happening as reports claim Pakistan is planning to travel to Tehran in hopes of starting up talks. Here with us now is David Tafuri, former State Department official and former foreign policy advisor to the Obama administration. David, good afternoon. You and I have talked many times before. It seems like we've discussed Iran ad nauseum, but we're still here. Iran's president now says that memorandum of understanding is the best way out of this ongoing limbo. David, can that deal still happen?
Well, Nick, the memorandum of understanding has actually expired because neither side did the things that were required under the MOU, which was 60 days, to negotiate the terms they could not agree to, like what would happen with Iran's nuclear program and how the Strait of Hormuz would be reopened. The administration had a number of choices about what to do. One of those was to escalate in terms of military attacks on Iran. Perhaps even one option is to put ground troops in a place like Karg Island or in southern Iran to control the Strait of Hormuz. But what the administration has apparently done is decided not at this time to escalate with military action, but instead to put new sanctions on Iran, which the administration is saying are going to be the most excessive, most extreme and isolating sanctions they have ever done on a country. And we will hear more, as you said, tomorrow from the Secretary of the Treasury about what exactly those sanctions are. But I think we can expect that they're going to try to punish those companies from countries that do business with Iran and want to do business with the United States or U.S. companies and prohibit them from doing so. That's one way to extend the U.S. sanctions to countries and companies that don't normally have to follow them. But the big question is, even with these extreme sanctions, will it cause Iran to change its behavior?
And that's, David, I was just about to ask you, why are we now turning to economic solutions to the war with Iran instead of military solutions? Because will that be enough?
I think a lot of commentators and observers believe it will not be enough, that it's worth doing and trying, especially if it's part of a broader strategy. But if you look at Cuba, for instance, we had maximum economic sanctions on Cuba, an embargo with almost no exceptions at all. And Cuba lasted for decades under that sanctions and still is, surviving despite the U.S. sanctions. And Iran has proven to be recalcitrant and to be creative in the face of sanctions and still finds way to bring in some revenues and to operate despite the sanctions. It's also a question of whether we can get the countries that do the most business with Iran to listen to the United States and to change their behavior. And that means China, which has about 40 to 50% of Iran's trade, but also some countries that are more allied with the U.S., like UAE, like Turkey, like Iraq, but who depend on trade with Iran as well.
Because, David, what you're saying is we can put all the sanctions we want on Iran, but if Iran is still able to trade with these other partners and still bring in revenue, our sanctions don't do much.
That's exactly right, Nick.
Okay, we're nearly 6 months into this conflict with Iran's president talking about a way out of the war and other Iranian officials threatening retaliation. What should the United States' objective be right now, David?
Well, I think the U.S. objective should be to make sure that Iran is not better off than they were before we started this war. That means that we have to have some resolution that ensures that Iran is not going to be able to develop a nuclear weapon, that it's going to let inspectors in, and that will be very far from being able to have a nuclear weapon. We also need to resolve the dispute overall with Iran and get the Strait of Hormuz reopened without any restrictions by Iran, or without Iran being able to decide which ships pass or to put excessive tolls or taxes on ships that pass. The problem is Iran is not willing to agree to any of those things without extreme concessions by the U.S., including they want the U.S. to pay money as reparations. They want the U.S. to pull all troops, not just out of the area around Iran, but out of the Middle East. These are things that the U.S. really can't do. I can't imagine the Trump administration would be willing to do them. And that's why we're at this impasse.
And David, we remember the IRG once putting out a post that says the United States has the watches, but we have the time. David Tafuri, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Nick.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky meeting with a bipartisan U.S. Senate delegation in Kyiv today. This comes just days after a Russian strike on a Ukrainian shopping center killed at least 16 people and wounded more than 100 others. Mr. Zelensky taking time to thank the United States for its support, adding that he hopes Congress will eventually pass Senator Lindsey Graham's sanction bill targeting Russia and Iran. Buckle up, racers on the D.C. track. Today, the Freedom 250 Grand Prix, flying past Capitol Hill, the Smithsonian, and so many more historic landmarks. But not before President Trump did it first. He, along with First Lady Melania Trump, took the first lap. NewsNation's Libby Dean saw it all firsthand and got to speak with a special guest, Artemis II astronaut Reed Weissman.
The Artemis II commander has the fastest seat in sports today, and he's so excited. Tell me how excited.
I cannot wait. Plus, I get to go with my friend Connor Daly in the nation's capital through the streets of Washington, D.C. This is insane.
This isn't going to be as fast as the rocket ship. So how different do you think it's going to feel? I don't know if y'all have done test drives yet.
I have not done a test ride yet, but I know this is going to be, I would say, insanity, total chaos. I'm going to feel things that are unimaginable because of the cornering, the braking, the acceleration, the walls, the trees, the buildings of the Capitol rushing by. It's going to feel completely different. We were doing 39 times the speed of sound on Artemis II, but this is going to be visceral today.
And Connor's going to be behind the wheel today, driving. We got a flyover happening.
That's awesome.
It doesn't get better. Look right there. See some Apaches.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Connor is going to be behind the wheel today. What are you anticipating when it comes to these bumps? I mean, we've seen the race car drivers, skid off a bit. You're not going to do that with him in the backseat, are you?
I'm going to make sure he gets the best ride that you could possibly have in an automobile. So it's going to be a lot of fun. This track's amazing. Everything's been set up here so well, and it's great to be a part of the NTT IndyCar Series here this weekend in the nation's capital.
Mm-hmm. So are you going to the moon after you circle the racetrack? What's going on?
I told Connor to push it. I want the full experience today. But I think tonight, maybe I'll just go back to Houston. We'll see.
Right now, Tropical Storm Moke making its way closer to Hawaii's Big Island. This just a week after Hurricane Lala brought heavy rainfall and gusty winds across the island. The tropical storm is expected to bring more of the same: rain, mudslides, and potentially more power outages. Governor Josh Green is requesting an emergency declaration from the White House, saying Hawaii needs federal resources to protect our communities. Forecasters say Moke will continue on its westward path near the islands through early Tuesday. Meantime, in Nevada, Governor Joe Lombardo has declared a state of emergency in Washoe County. This as firefighters battle the growing wildfire burning northwest of Reno. Officials say the wildfire was caused by humans. Right now, 42,000 people are under evacuation orders. So far, it has burned more than 13,000 acres and is currently 0% contained.
We want to get the beef prices down, so we'll get them down a little bit. And that's what people want, that's what the voters want, and that's what I want. The ranchers are great. They're my people. I love the ranchers. They've done a fantastic job, but they admit that we need a little help and in order to get the prices down. So that's what we're doing.
Trying to bring down the cost of squeezing your checking account, President Trump announcing more beef imports will temporarily be allowed into the United States without triggering higher tariffs. But Republican lawmakers in rural states fear it will harm American ranchers. And this just into our newsroom, the former Illinois sheriff's deputy who was sentenced to 2 decades in prison for killing Sonia Massey inside her home has died. Why he tried to get an early medical release. That's next.